For staying with us, we did say that this conversation requires a professional outlook. Let us look at the basics. What exactly is kleptomania? How do you, is it treatable? What do you do when you have somebody on your hands who is kleptomaniac? I mean, how should society treat kleptomania? What are the things expected of us as a society when we look deep at these issues? And I will not be having that conversation alone this morning. I have my guest seated here in the studio. I have with me Dr. Maitami, right? Moyosori. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Moyosori is a consultant psychiatrist, and he has a residency training in psychiatry at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you very much. Nice to
All right, let's break this down.
Okay, shoot.
What is kleptomania?
Okay, kleptomania is a mental health disorder. It just means compulsive stealing, or some people say stealing insanity. It's a mental health disorder where the person has this intense urge. He can't repress that feeling to pick things, steal things now. Let me use the word steal now.
Okay.
That he doesn't need, or things that he can afford that have no value to him. So the person has this tension prior to picking those things, and he cannot help himself. He has to do it. After picking those things, he feels a lot of gratification, he feels more relaxed. Some have remorse, some feel guilty, but doesn't mean that they won't repeat the act. So many people may overdiagnose or misdiagnose kleptomania sometimes. So it's not a common mental health disorder. So we need to be careful so not to label people to have that disorder, or still they have it when they don't have it.
Have it. Okay.
Exactly.
What do you mean overdiagnose or misdiagnose kleptomania?
There is a criteria for diagnosing kleptomania.
Okay.
Okay, I'll share some of them with you. One is that the person should not have any other mental health disorder, such as manic mania, such as dementia, such as maybe head injuries. We have to rule all those out before we say the person has kleptomania.
Oh, before you go on, give me a second here.
Okay.
The person, for you to say someone has kleptomania, the person should not have mania.
That should not be the underlying factor.
So, but kleptomania is a form of mania.
No, I think you mixed it up.
Okay,
now,
please.
Mania is a mood disorder.
Okay.
It's characterized by elevated mood, increased energy. Person can walk around Lagos 10 times. There's this intense, self-esteem that is bloated.
Oh, okay.
Grandiose delusions, may hear voices, maybe give away things, very generous, extravagant.
Okay.
So that's mania. That's a mood disorder.
Okay.
Kleptomania is a habit and impulse disorder.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. So, what else should a doctor look out for to rule out, okay, this is kleptomania, this is not kleptomania?
Okay. The major diagnostic factors include that the person should have intense urge to steal. Tension can be so irrepressible that the person cannot help himself. The impulses can be images that are so persistent, so the person is overwhelmed to steal. Now, those things he steals are, like I said, are maybe invaluable things he can afford. In the end, he has no personal gain in taking those things. The person usually hoards them, gives them out, or just keeps them somewhere just for the fact that to feel happy after taking them. So he has no personal gain in taking those things. Other things that I said, that after taking those things, he feels relieved. Can you imagine someone having an exam, the anxiety, after it's done, is relieved. So same thing happens to them. Feel relieved, and I've done it. I feel better now.
I was going to ask you to take us through like what goes on in the mind of a kleptomaniac? Like how
Okay.
does it play out for the person from when the desires and the urges
Okay.
start to
Okay.
when he takes the item, and
Okay.
then what happens next? Is it that the person has a need to feel that satisfaction again? Is that why it is recurrent? Like what really goes on?
Okay. Um, Let me say that first of all, the urge is not the urge to pick those things, steal those things, is not planned. It's not premeditated.
Okay.
It just happens.
Okay.
Maybe walking through this studio now and sees this cup or this vase, picks it. So the step by step now, the person has this intense urge. It just comes on. It's not triggered by what he sees. Just comes on suddenly, and he can't repress the urges, or it can be images, and he's so anxious, so tense, he's so uncomfortable with himself. So at that point, he moves on to the acts. The other one was just impulses, the thoughts. Now he moves on to the acts. What can he pick? Know that he picks things that he doesn't need. So you can pick anything from one shoe, or just something that he goes on and sees and he has to take it. He has to feel relief at that point. It's like someone who has a problem with addiction, and they have to get a fix at that point. They can't help themselves. So pick something, and like someone who has a fix, he feels instant relief until the next urge comes, and the next urge to get a fix comes. He's fine. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so how do we then differentiate? Because we mentioned something earlier, just before you joined us, that
Okay.
some people, there's a myth that you can use kleptomania as a legal defense or as a legal excuse for being charged for the crime of theft.
Okay.
So how do we, because Baladi and I could not resolve how do we find the balance? Because we have to also be considerate of somebody who has a mental condition.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
at the same time, we have to be careful so that somebody who is purposefully a thief does
doesn't
not
get
use that as a
scot-free.
loophole. So
Yeah.
how do you differentiate?
Unfortunately, it has been used as a loophole many times by defense lawyers. It will take a lot of an expert to be able to know that this person has mental disorder, kleptomania, or is a thief. There are no labs to test if the person is seeing the truth, because it's what the person tells you that you use to make a diagnosis. For example, if I tell you that I have this urge to take this mug on my way out, you will know if I'm saying the truth or if I'm a thief, actually a thief. You can't test it.
Okay.
Or that he feels gratification after he has taken those things. You can't test it. So it takes a professional to be able to assess. Now, the other part of it is that from diagnosis, the person takes things that he doesn't need. He hoards them. I've seen or read cases where a person, after they're moving houses, his wife finds a box of cards or box of toys that a grown man would pick. Wouldn't pick anyway, wouldn't need.
Yeah.
So things like that, it won't be things that he needs for monetary gain or personal use, unlike a thief who would do those things for personal use. So that can be a deal breaker in those cases.
Okay. So is there anything that genuinely triggers kleptomania, like maybe a chemical reaction in the brain, underdeveloped parts of the brain, or could it be like a trauma response? Maybe something happened at some point, and maybe a child that was born normal, and then out of the blue, something just started happening. Like, what could really trigger kleptomania?
Okay, there's no specific cause for kleptomania. You won't find a cause. You may do
this is so difficult.
You may do a brain imaging for a person, or you won't find anything. But there are certain factors that have been linked to kleptomania. The underlying factor is there are chemicals in the brain which control how we behave: appetite, sleep, mood. One of them is serotonin, or 5-HT, serotonin. It is shown that people that have kleptomania have low levels of serotonin.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Now, other factors will include that other mental disorders have been linked to kleptomania. Like I mentioned, mania. Someone that has mania may maybe having high self-esteem or low self-esteem want to feel that I own this thing and he takes it.
Yeah.
Or someone who has dementia, they have issues with the memory, they pick things and forget to pay. Or people who have agoraphobia, meaning that there's fear of crowded places. So someone goes to shopping mall and he picks an item and suddenly he's overwhelmed by the crowd and takes off,
to run off. Yeah.
without paying. So it can be linked with many other disorders.
Okay.
Then also some personality disorders have been linked with kleptomania. Other ones include that childhood trauma, parenting problems when a child doesn't get enough love and he wants to fill that void, emotional void.
Okay.
Or other things
To get attention?
Yeah, to get attention, yes. There's this movie that I think is airing now, this series, where some people, money heist or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they plan the theft and everything to get attention and all those things. So it's one of the things you want to look into. Then also something to add. Skip my mind now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, people with substance abuse, addiction problems also may have kleptomania as well, because addiction and kleptomania usually tend to follow the same pattern.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it's
Let me not forget that. Let me add that people with kleptomania are people with mental health problems, and they are not thieves or criminals. So we should avoid trying to label them or stigmatize them. Let me say it before I forget.
okay. Thanks for that clarification. But is there an age bracket? Is it possible to outgrow it? Is there an age bracket for it? Is it seasonal? What is it exactly?
Well, the studies on kleptomania are few and far between. There are not many studies on it. So, but few ones have said that it starts late teens up to late 30s, some people. Or the average age is set up about 17 years of age.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, unless it's not, well, like I said, it can be linked to kleptomania can be linked to other mental health disorders. So once you treat those other mental health disorders, that kleptomania may resolve.
Okay.
So it may resolve eventually. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's look at, because you just mentioned now that they're not criminals, we should not label them as such, we should avoid labeling. Yeah. But you would agree with me, doctor, that it's difficult not to label, considering the fact that we're also in a society where there are people who don't have mental disorders, but they are very intentional about stealing.
Yeah, I agree.
And so those set of people make it extra difficult for society to understand someone who steals on impulse. So how do you prescribe that family, friends, people around, I don't even know how the word now, should I say adapt or help them adopt into society? Because, I mean, it's just a whole lot. Yeah. I mean, look at the man who was married for 26 years and dissolved his marriage because his wife has this uncle. Yeah, so how do you prescribe that society deals or adapts to their condition? I want to
first commend your station for bringing this to the fore.
Thank you.
When people are not aware of something, then they don't know how to deal with it. So our prisons are filled with people who have mental health problems, which should not be, who committed crimes based on their mental state, and instead of being taken to hospital, they are taken to prisons. So being aware of a certain condition like this kleptomania we're discussing now will go a long way to help people understand that these people have a mental health problem. Now, increasing awareness, like we're doing just now, is one of the ways to help people understand that it's a mental health problem, it's a disorder and not intentional stealing. Okay. Can imagine someone stealing things he doesn't need and holding them, and you, of course, you won't be able to discern at that point unless you see an expert to diagnose.
Yeah.
So people shouldn't take laws into their hands. Jungle justice will be given to the person before he even gets into the hospital.
Yeah.
So people shouldn't take laws into their hands. They should be able to let Oh, well, maybe let the law take its course. Go to a police station, report the case, let there be records, because people that have this disorder tend to be repeat offenders, in quote now, repeat offenders, and with records you can know that this is not just, it's unusual to do this over and over, with regard for your safety, that of others, integrity. You know that something is amiss here. Then from there, they can be referred to the appropriate quarters.
So is it curable? Are there treatments? Is it curable?
Okay. Most mental health disorders are not curable, but
Okay,
can be treated.
manageable.
Yes,
Okay.
treated. With the appropriate medication, psychotherapy, it can be treated. It all starts with creating awareness like this. It helps people to know what you're up against. Then helping the person who's suffering from this, bringing them to the hospital, seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist, as the case may be. And then we psychiatrists will take it from there, give the appropriate drugs, psychological treatments, as the case may be. And the person will live his life normally. But it doesn't mean that the person won't have instances where we have a relapse.
Okay.
Family members too, I must say, it's not easy to deal with such. It can be embarrassing and it can take a toll on everybody. So usually we treat the whole family together when someone has such conditions.
Okay.
We tell them this is how it is, this is what you should do, this is what you should do to avoid making the person feel worse or feel bad. Because people that have kleptomania may have other illnesses like depression. And if he feels worse, feels more terrible than he was before, he can take his life.
Yeah.
So we treat the whole family, and well, it can have a good prognosis if everybody is on board and the person comes early enough before things get bad.
This is serious. So as we wrap this conversation up, I had a thought, and I felt like maybe if we could look at it from that lens. Now, since we don't have a visible symptom, for instance, somebody says they are someone with ADHD, OCD, you can still say, okay, these are some symptoms. But for kleptomania, since we don't have you can't see somebody standing now and say, this person is kleptomaniac, this one is not kleptomaniac. Since there are no visible, outstanding symptoms, except for the fact that they pick things that are virtually useless for them. Now, should we now say that for everybody that has been caught, so to speak, stealing, taken to court, the court should weigh substantial evidence. Okay, what did this person steal? The person stole a shoelace, or the person stole one leg of a pair of shoes, or the person stole the cover of a biro, something like that. Now, should we base, should that be what everybody should look out for, so that we can just say, so for instance, you are walking down the street and there's a mob about to lynch someone, and you say, what did the person steal? And they said he stole school biscuits. Now, I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
I get your point. It can be quite dicey. Quite dicey, because you can't pick up everybody that steals and say he has a mental health problem. Some could be.
But then stealing ordinarily, should it not be a mental problem? Because why would you take something that doesn't belong to you?
Stealing could be a social problem, social vice.
Okay, social vice, apparently.
But in this case, well, as I said, you can't just pick everybody that steals and say he has a mental health disorder. That would be, we want to label completely, which I wouldn't do, which we wouldn't do. So, kleptomania has a trend.
Okay.
Which, like I said earlier, it starts from late teens. It'd be difficult to now give a timeline when someone's about to be lynched. It would be difficult, but of course, lynching, young justice is very bad. It's very, very wrong. So we need to have a timeline from when the onset, if there's a trend, how long has it been going on, things it peaks, there's criteria for diagnosis of kleptomania. There are no other mental disorders. Person has tension, anxiety before the disorder. He feels gratification after the event. He picks things that he doesn't need or invaluable to him. Those are the the criteria.
Holds them or dashes them out.
Yes, holds, dashes out. Yes,
Okay.
doesn't need them most times. So we must first have a trend, have a pattern
Okay.
before we can say this person is a kleptomania or a thief,
Okay.
stealing out of need,
Okay.
something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, final question, and I'll let you go.
Wow.
Let's look at it from this. What do you have to say to people who believe that it is more spiritual than mental, or to people who would beat the child, especially a teenage child, blue, black, yellow, green, red, just because that thieving spirit in you
Should
must
leave
get
him.
out? So, what do you have to say to those two categories of people?
Yeah. Well, the way a child behaves is factor of the society,
Okay.
upbringing, parenting, and everything, and other ends personality. So, first of all, corporal punishment. Well, in the Western world, we're not allowed to spank a child anymore.
Yes.
Which
We started adopting in large scales.
Well,
which is good.
I don't know where that's
A lot of people are adopting
that
it.
day.
Yeah.
That's something from that. And that day, I have my own views about it.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
So, if there's a trend, a child has been stealing and over again. As a mother, yes, can be embarrassing. More map at me, the child goes to school, comes back with crayons, pencils. He's caught one day and embarrassed by the school. He's what's it called? Shamed at the assembly. The child is embarrassed, and it's worse off, of course. Anyway, if this is a trend, we have child psychologists as well. If you beat a child, you kill the child.
Okay.
And it won't stop.
The habit.
If it's a kleptomaniac, it won't stop the habit. You just kill the child. Of course, if it's a social vice, like I said, you look at the society where he lives, his parents. I forgot to add that one of the causes of kleptomania is family history.
Okay.
It could run in families. Genes could be passed on from parents to the offsprings. In some way, a father could pass on his face to a child. Same way, genes could pass to the child.
On, yeah.
So, look at the father or the parents as well. Do they have that habit in them? Are they also thieves? Is the child copying parents?
Behavior?
Or yes. The child, a product of environment, watching movies where they are stealing and doing that. So, before you judge a child or beat a child to death, you should consider all these factors.
Okay.
If you cannot handle it, bring the child to a psychologist or psychiatrist. We'll take it from there.